All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Have you ever bought just one seemingly innocent thing, only to suddenly find yourself buying like five more things just to make that first thing fit in? Well, today we're looking at this invisible psychological trap that catches literally almost all of us. It's a fascinating story about consumer behavior, the hidden mechanics of our own minds, and a very, very expensive piece of furniture. So let me introduce you to a shopper named Sarah and an absolutely massive final price tag. See, Sarah went out and bought a couch. It was this beautiful $2,000 mid-century modern couch. Perfect shade of blue, exactly what she wanted. But just 6 weeks later, that $2,000 purchase had somehow exploded into $8,000 of spending. And the wildest part? She literally never saw it coming. Let's take a look at the timeline here to see how this avalanche of spending actually builds, because Sarah definitely didn't plan it this way. For the first 3 days, everything was great. She just sat there, loved her beautiful new couch. But then, she looked down at her coffee table. And next to this pristine, perfect blue couch, her old coffee table suddenly looked, well, kind of wrong. It looked scratched. It felt cheap. So week 2, she buys a new one for $400. Problem solved, right? Nope. Because now, the rug underneath that new table looked horribly faded and completely clashing. I mean, the audacity of that rug, right? So that's another $600 in week 3. And by week 6, she's replacing the lamps, buying new throw pillows, and swapping out the artwork on the walls literally just to keep up with the couch. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that Sarah isn't uniquely irresponsible. I mean, we might look at that timeline and think, oh, I would never do that. But the truth is, she was completely blindsided by a deeply ingrained psychological trap. She truly, genuinely just wanted a couch. She had absolutely no intention of redecorating her entire living room. Her rational brain made a single budgeted purchase, but something else entirely took the wheel. What happened to her actually has an official name, and it brilliantly illustrates this universal human vulnerability. It's called the Diderot Effect. Basically, it's a phenomenon where obtaining a new possession leads to an uncontrollable spiral of consumption just to match it. You buy one upgraded item, and suddenly it's like it demands that everything around it be upgraded too. It is a total domino effect of spending. Part 1. The Fatal Rogue. So, to understand exactly where this name comes from and why this happens to us, we actually have to travel way back to 1765 and look at the life of a renowned French philosopher named Denis Diderot. Diderot was given a truly magnificent gift, this gorgeous, beautifully crafted scarlet robe. Luxurious, perfect, the whole shebang. But exactly like Sarah's couch, the moment he put it on, his entire room suddenly felt completely inadequate. As he's sitting in his study wearing this brilliant scarlet robe, he notices his old chair. Suddenly, it looks incredibly shabby. He looks at his desk, poor and out of place. His rug, old and worn out. So what does he do? He replaces the chair. Then he replaces the desk. Then he replaces the rug. He kept replacing his surroundings to match the elegance of his new robe until he had spent absolutely every single franc he had. The guy went completely broke. He actually wrote an entire essay about this financial disaster later in his life, famously dubbing the garment the fatal robe. He basically realized the robe had cursed him into poverty. And this shows us something incredibly profound, This isn't just some modern consumer problem caused by internet shopping or flashy commercials. No. This is a timeless, fundamental human flaw. We have literally been doing this to ourselves for hundreds of years. Part 2. The psychology of consistency. So why exactly does our mind do this to us? Why can't we just enjoy the scarlet robe or the blue couch and just leave everything else alone? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the underlying mechanics of human psychology. Science reveals that your brain heavily craves consistency. Before Sarah bought the couch or before Diderot got the robe, their old environment had a consistent baseline. The brain looks at a room where everything is at the exact same level of wear and tear, and it feels satisfied. It makes sense, right? But when one thing in your environment levels up, like a brand new $2,000 couch, your baseline just shatters. Your reference point shifts entirely. Suddenly, making a comparison to the new, perfect item makes everything else in the room feel severely downgraded, even though those old items haven't actually changed at all. Your coffee table didn't magically get more scratched overnight. Your brain's standard for what belongs in that room simply changed. Part 3. The retail ecosystem. And that brings us to the most practical takeaway from this explainer.
And honestly, perhaps the most important thing to keep in mind the next time you go shopping. This psychology is absolutely not an accident. Retail brands completely weaponize this craving for consistency. Think about it. When you walk into a store, you might think you're looking at individual items, but look at how they're presented. Furniture stores don't just sell couches on a blank warehouse floor, they sell entire, perfectly matched rooms. They design the display so your brain immediately associates the couch with the matching rug and the table and the lamps, and it was way beyond furniture. Look at technology. Apple doesn't just sell you a phone, they sell you an interconnected ecosystem. If you get the new phone, well, suddenly your old headphones feel like a downgrade, so you get the AirPods. Then you need the watch to match that seamless experience. They are essentially selling you an entirely new reference point.
Understanding this just completely flips how we look at shopping. It reveals the harsh truth about Sarah's living room makeover. Her initial $2,000 layout, that wasn't really the price of a couch. It was the entry fee into a psychological cascade. Buying the couch was really just buying a ticket to ride the Diderot Effect all the way to an $8,000 credit card bill. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one crucial thought. Before you click buy or hand over your credit card for your next big upgrade, just pause for a second. Remember that the first price tag you see is almost never the real price. Look at the item and ask yourself, what hidden costs are going to follow this? What else in my life is suddenly going to feel like a downgrade? Really ask yourself, what is the real price of your next upgrade?